It's Xee and Cyn, and we're back with another video. Today we are reacting to 10 lesser known British inventions that changed the world. And we got this from Girl Gone London. The link will be in the description below. Show her some love and definitely appreciate her for the content that she creates for us to react to. So thank you. And let's get into this one. I'm curious.
All right. So this is going to be interesting because I just saw this one and I'm like, Cynthia needs to see this because we've done the major inventions done already. So we're familiar with it. But these, I think you're going to be in for a rude awakening.
If you haven't been living under a rock, and probably even if you have, you'll know that some pretty major inventions have come out of the UK. For instance, the World Wide Web, the steam engine, and even the chocolate bar. But this episode isn't about those. It's about the way more interesting stories of the inventions you probably didn't know were British. This is a video about fascinating things like linoleum, marine chronometers, and the modern torpedo. Let's get started. First up, linoleum. Everyone now hates linoleum because it's gone out of fashion, but honestly, everyone also once loved linoleum because it's awesome and easy to clean, and your grandma probably had it all over the house. This smooth floor covering is made from a mixture of linseed oil, flax, wood flour, cork, and pigments, and it's typically on a canvas backing and pressed between really heavy rollers. But this isn't a video about how linoleum is made, it's about who made it, and that was an Englishman named Frederick Walton. The year was 1855, and our pal Frederick had an oops moment when he forgot to seal a container of linseed oil. His bad, but also his good, because it went on to then make him very successful. When he returned to the container later on, he saw that a skin of solidified oil had formed on top of it. As he peeled it off, he wondered to himself in what way this weird rubbery substance could be used. By 1860, he had created a patent for linoleum, coming from the Latin word linum, meaning flax, and oleum, meaning oil. He had a manufacturing company set up in 1864 outside of London and basically ruled the linoleum exports for a while. But he also made another mistake when he didn't register linoleum as a trade name, meaning he lost a court case where other people were starting to sell different brands of linoleum. With that, it's considered to be the first product name that turned into a generic term. Next on my list are cat.
Interesting. I never would have thought of that. Linoleum.
Do you know what linoleum is?
She just showed it.
I know she showed it, but do you know it?
I know what it was. No, I'm used to like wood floor carpet.
You see, she said she just showed it.
No, I mean,
growing up, I used to have a linoleum on my floor.
Not us.
Like this, it's like similar. It's like a linoleum. It's just not. This is the flooring. But it's just like this. So you spread it on the floor. It's so easy to clean, Cynthia, and you get all different type, all different color. Your house be looking pop. That's not like you don't know. You are young, Lindsay.
I am young, Xavier.
Listen,
you gotta remember that.
linoleum was the it back then until they come in with this vinyl floor. It's the same thing. It's just that these are thicker. That's it.
That's good to know. Did not know that.
Linoleum, that's the boss for flooring. Listen, my grandmother, oh baby, them colors were off the chain, but pretty.
Nice.
Man, I was like, ooh, she said something. I don't think you hear it. You know those little dots that in the road that partition has a reflector in the night when you're driving? Oh Lord, don't tell me you don't know.
No, I'm saying it's not that. I don't see that here. Come where I drive, I don't see it.
You sure?
I'm being serious. I drive.
You drive. You don't look down, don't it?
I look.
You just hold lane.
I'm looking where I'm looking at. I'm looking straight ahead. I'm not really focused that much on the sides.
Okay.
You have the big lights. I don't pay attention to the small lights on the road. I don't. I'm sorry.
Listen up. Let's find out. Let's see. Maybe you know.
Cat's eyes. Not the actual eyes of cats, but these things in the road that are reflective and help you stay in your lane when it's dark out. I had no idea.
That's not that common here in Alaska specifically. In other states, I would expect that, but I have not seen it. Even on the highways, there's none on the highways. You just get the big lamps. Like when I was driving out to Boston, like a city here, I don't see that.
Also, I'm like when you're driving out of town.
When I go to Boston River, I don't see it.
What?
Do you see it?
There's something wrong with your brain. That's what I'm saying.
I don't.
You've never see it?
I don't. Because I'm just so focused on where I'm going. I'm not that Because I'm the driver. I don't look like
it's right in front of you.
I don't look that way. I just don't.
But so you didn't even know what the name of it was?
No.
Okay. And yeah.
What these things were called until I researched for this video. And then I said to my husband, hey, you know those reflective thingies on the road? Apparently the British invented those. And he said, you mean cat's eyes? And I said, how do you know what they're called? And then I wondered if this was like a me thing or an American public schooling thing. Anyway, they were invented in the year 1934 by a man from Yorkshire named Percy Shaw. It's super simple, but Percy has saved countless lives over the years with this invention. He worked initially as a road contractor, so he was already a little bit more in tune with this sort of thing than your average citizen, but the idea came about when he was driving home from a pub late at night on Yorkshire roads and didn't realize he was very close to a steep drop on one side of the road until a cat who just happened to be sitting on a fence by the side of the road, allegedly, looked at his car and reflected his headlights back to him in the cat's eyes. At least this is the story that Percy told, so it could be 100% false, but he did come up with them and started to figure out how he could use a glass sphere to reflect the headlamps of cars. People weren't sold at first, and sales were initially slow, but then the blackouts of World War II started, and they realized that actually it's kind of dark out and we can't really see. So the Ministry of Transport started to make large orders, and the rest is history. Next,
She's just like me. I didn't even know what it was or what it's called. That's my first time ever seeing that.
That's crazy.
So you know,
so
okay, now I'm
familiar.
gonna ask you. You knew that before the video?
I didn't know what the name of it was, but I know it.
I was like, I'm driving. I
It
don't
got a
see
name?
that. In cat eyes.
But cat eyes.
Just serving.
But I did my research after I did this video. I think I did a couple days ago. That's not what it's called in the US.
What is it called in the
It's called a different name. And the reason why the US don't call it cat eyes is because they didn't want to pay.
Pay.
Yeah, because it's their inventions.
What's it called in the US? Do you remember?
Bomb something or another. It has a funny name.
Okay.
But I was like, because I was like, I need to look this up. I gotta see if this is the same thing we call it here in the US, but it's not. But I'm so familiar with them. But I was like, and then they let me know in the comment section that the story is not alleged, it is true. But look at that. Just an idea popping up. Oh, me about to run off in that one clip. Now, me see one cat. Because you know, if you look at a cat eye in the dark, it reflects. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
So
it's scary.
Yeah, it is. And can you imagine an idea popped out of that and you become a millionaire? Crazy how ideas come about.
Yes.
And you act on it. Idea and acting upon it. I was like, okay, you all invented that. Okay.
I bet you're wondering who in the world invented the hypodermic syringe. It's an interesting topic, actually. This is what has enabled the modern jab, or shot, as we say in America, and it's all down to a Scottish man named Alexander Wood. He studied arts and medicine in 1832 and established his own private medical practice in Scotland in 1839, but it wasn't until the 1850s in 1832 and established his own private medical practice in Scotland in 1839, but it wasn't until the 1850s when he came up with a hypodermic needle. There already existed a hollow needle, but he essentially added a plunger onto this and made the syringe glass, so now the doctors could see inside and be more accurate with dosages. He was fascinated with finding ways to relieve localized pain in people, which is a very noble thing to be fascinated by, unlike my fascination with watching true crime documentaries on Netflix, which helps literally no one. He did have sort of a competitor unknowingly. It was a French surgeon who reported a similar invention in the same year. But honestly, the French guy's wasn't as good because his was made of silver, so you couldn't see inside of it. And he used a screw to push the medicine in, unlike the plunger. Plus, he tested on sheep while Wood tested on humans to make sure it really worked. So the Frenchman didn't get credit, and Alexander Wood has gone down in history. Next on my list is something very modern.
I didn't know that was a syringe. That's pretty cool.
And which makes sense because when you look at the comparison between the two, you couldn't see nothing inside.
Yeah.
So you couldn't see how much you're going to administer if it's at the right dosage. And his was clear marking. You can see everything. And then he had a plunger.
Yep, that's a huge compared to a screw, a plunger.
That's smart.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Modern, the iPod. But Steve Jobs created the iPod, you might be saying to yourself. And that's true, but there's also more to this story. There's a man called Kane Kramer, who is still involved in the world of British inventions, and he developed the first digital audio player in 1979. It was only capable at the time of playing 3.5 minutes of music stored on a chip, but you can see from the design here and how close it is to the original iteration of the iPod. Unfortunately, he had to let the patent expire around 1998 due to a lack of funding, and while Apple did acknowledge his original design in court cases in later years, Kramer never really got anything out of it and is quoted as saying, "To be honest, I was just so pleased that finally something that I had done, which has been a huge success and changed the music industry, was being acknowledged." The next British invention on my list.
I didn't feel bad for him.
I know, right?
Like he's at least my invention is known.
But look how humble he is.
Yeah, he's very humble.
Wow. When I heard that, I was like, Apple, you could have thrown him some sense.
At least some, yeah.
Just give him
Apple
some
got money.
And you could have compensated it because it's his original idea. I know it was only for 3 minutes long, but that was a long time. 1970. That's a long time.
That's a long time ago.
That's before it even exists.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
And nothing more than just the recognition of his idea, which he's proud of, that he made such an impact in the music industry. But I'm just saying. Yeah, but he reminds me of the lady that invented the fidget spinner.
I don't know that lady.
Yep, she didn't make nothing, but yet still everybody else goes on to make millions from it.
Wow.
And she made it for artistic.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm not surprised.
Happening and everything.
People, that was huge back then. Everybody had one.
And it's crazy.
That is crazy.
It's crazy. You see this patenting thing, man?
Very important.
Run with the idea, patent it, and keep it going. Because you see, he couldn't back his after 1998. Look at it, that's 1998. Yeah. When that's it. It's because of patenting, he didn't have the funding to keep it going. A big company got it, and there you go. Great.
List, which is quite the departure from what we've been over so far, is the modern torpedo, the weapon you use to detonate enemy ships. An English engineer, Robert Whitehead, wasn't the only one who had attempted to work on the torpedo design, but he, along with a man named Giovanni Lupus, an officer in the Austro-Hungarian Navy, made the best advances and thus went down in history for this invention. Robert Whitehead had been involved in engineering since the age of 16, starting as an apprentice in Manchester and then eventually traveling to France and Italy to work as a marine engineer. Now, Lupus, on the other hand, had spent time trying to develop waterborne weapons, including a floating torpedo that was powered by a clockwork motor, but his was unreliable and honestly way more dangerous than anyone was even comfortable with. So Whitehead tried to perfect this model and ended up creating a driverless underwater missile that would detonate on impact. The Lupus Whitehead torpedo, created in 1866, was much more practical and safe for use. Until it gets to its final destination, and he kept refining it until sea services around the globe started adopting it. Sadly for Lupus, he signed a contract with Whitehead that allowed for Whitehead to have the rights on future sales of the torpedo, and Whitehead became very wealthy and got to add the torpedo to the list of British inventions, while Lupus apparently died relatively bitter, but that's why you think twice about what you sign. Next up.
Exactly.
Can you believe that? Dang. For future sales.
Future sales. Like you just signed your
life away, boy.
Yes, your family can't eat off of that, but his family will be good. Wealthy. And he died bitterly and angry and probably poor.
Can you imagine that? Why would you sign something like that? Seeing that
maybe he needed quick cash. Maybe that's what it was.
Or maybe he's thinking it won't last, or we don't need these, not while a war won't. But I'm just like, what a sign. No, think twice.
Yep.
We're going to make this together, even if we don't make nothing.
Yep, exactly.
That's a giveaway.
Dang.
Especially back in the days when they're doing inventions and you see that it's as places go with it between different countries. No, so bitter. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how angry he was?
Pissed.
British man said, listen. Son, British man have sense to himself. Listen, son, if you want sign. He didn't force him. He didn't.
Sticking with the marine theme is the marine chronometer. This is one of those things that will make you glaze over if you dive too deep into it, which wasn't an intentional pun, but we're leaving it in the script because it's dumb. So a marine chronometer, for those of you who don't know, which I'm sure which is none of you because we're all up on the latest marine chronometer news, is a navigational tool that is carried on a ship to determine longitude.
Yeah.
It does this by comparing Greenwich Mean Time with the time at the current location found from observing celestial bodies, obviously. It was incredibly important and a huge technical achievement in its time because ships needed effective navigation for long sea voyages. And that technical achievement was created by none other than John Harrison, an English carpenter and clockmaker. There was actually a financial reward offered for someone who could come up with this invention because there had been quite a few naval disasters that British Parliament did not want to repeat, so they offered up to £20,000 in the early 1700s, an equivalent of almost £4 million these days. Unfortunately, John never saw a lot of this money for political reasons, but he did go down in history as the creator of the marine chronometer. Honestly, he probably would have chosen the money, but we can't change that now. Now, John was another Yorkshire man originally, and he built and repaired clocks in his spare time. It took him about 30 years of refining and testing to really succeed at the marine chronometer, and this was a feat that many scientists, including Isaac Newton, doubted could ever be built. Harrison had to come up with something that was going to be accurate over long intervals at sea without adjusting it, as well as something that wasn't affected by variations in temperature, pressure, humidity, and the constantly moving ship, obviously, as well as sea salty air. Eventually, he did it and earned himself and the marine chronometer a spot on this list of great British inventions. Next on our list is something
that is so crazy and so messed up that he didn't get that money. He spent 30 years
long
crafting
time.
it. That's a long time. Crafting it, perfecting it, like, and you didn't get like that to pay for it for that $4 million? That's messed up.
Well, it's 20,000 back then.
Yeah, 20,000. Yeah, sorry,
equivalent to. But that's
wow.
I tell you, when political stuff get involved in money turnover, you ain't seen jack.
It disappears.
Corruption is just thick.
Wow.
But when she said, not even Isaac Newton thought it's possible, and he did it. Can you imagine how proud he felt?
Yes.
Because it has to pass through the fact that it won't rust, it can handle pressure, it can handle heat, it can handle all these stuff.
Yep.
And you don't have to check it on a regular basis. Can you imagine that?
I can see why it took him so long to perfect it. I can definitely see it. I feel like he should definitely pay for that because that's a lot of work, time.
Yeah.
Time.
And I thought this one should have been with the major invention.
Oh yeah.
I think it held its spot to be up there.
Even the syringe, I think so too. Despite how small, like the syringe, you see that every day.
And the cat eyes too.
I never would have thought that. This was like a British invention.
Yeah, these are known as the lesser British inventions,
but
I think they should be up there with the steam engines.
Because these actually
they're still used today. These are
and affect our lives too.
Exactly, all over the world.
Something far more simple: the tin can. This is an interesting one because the British man, Peter Durand, who was a merchant, received the first patent for the idea of preserving food using tin cans around 1810. But in the patent itself, he specifically mentions that the idea for this was communicated to him by a friend from abroad, which turned out to be a French inventor who actually came up with it. But the French inventor had only experimented with small food volumes, and Durand envisioned a much larger scale production. Durand's patent was also specifically for the preservation technique of using tin cans for food, and he has retained the credit for the first tin canned food patent. So technically, this is a French invention that the British came along and made better and put into large scale use, so it's included in this list. Moving along.
Can't take it from the tin can. The same one in the boy have all this soup and all this stuff in. Can you imagine that? But look, a friend gave him the idea because he did it. but his was on a small scale.
Yep.
It's like, okay, let's think bigger. Let's perfect.
You're always thinking bigger.
I tell you,
bigger and better.
The minds of Brits to me, man, is very out there. It's like they're smart. You can't take that from them because I'm like, okay, let's go on a wider scale. We just don't want just small stuff. We want to see how much things we can preserve in a can, not just food. Isn't that something?
It is.
Perfection.
I never thought of tin can.
Tin can.
Tin can.
Perfection at its best. So listen, you give me take it, me make it better. It's that simple.
Let's talk about synthetic dye. Until the mid 1800s, dyes came from natural sources like minerals and insects. But in 1856, an 18-year-old Englishman called William Henry Perkin accidentally came up with the first synthetic dye. It was a brilliant purple color, and it happened because he was trying to find a treatment for malaria during his Easter holidays from college. Side note to those of you still at school, stop scrolling TikTok and do something more useful. He was doing an experiment with coal tar, and while the experiment failed, and I really don't completely understand the experiment because I'm not that smart, he realized that the oily residue left over would stain silk. Now, his purple dye changed manufacturing history, and he immediately was like, let's let someone else find the treatment for malaria. I'm riding this wave. So he applied for a patent and helped to establish the modern chemical industry. He retired at the age of 36 and then just enjoyed carrying out research in other areas of chemistry. Second to last,
18 accidentally. He wasn't doing it on purpose. Like, let me do this, but accidentally.
Home from college and playing around stuff, trying to figure out a cure for something else. Yeah,
look at that.
Listen to that thing.
Yeah.
Stop scrolling TikTok. I'm on board with it.
Get on your grades. Get on your books.
He was like, I'm on board with what she said. It's like, explore the world outside, man. Put that screen down for a moment. And retired at 36 years old.
That's the dream. Because you're still young. You can still travel. You can
enjoy life. You know what? And your family is fine.
And
you're
well
fine.
taken care of.
You don't have to worry about nothing. And you're in the history book too.
You're 18. I was shocked. I was like, 18 and accidentally found it. Yeah.
So but the syringe was 16 years old.
Shut up.
What's on our list is float glass. Float glass is a sheet of glass made by floating molten glass on a bed of molten metal, and it gives the glass a very uniform thickness and a very flat surface. Modern windows are usually made from float glass, making it a very, very important invention. And who was the man behind it? He was an Englishman named Alistair Pilkington, born in 1920 and educated in Cambridge. He gained a degree in mechanical science after the war ended and joined a company called the Pilkington Brothers in 1947, which funnily enough had no actual relation to him despite having the same name. He came up with the idea of float glass in 1952, it was announced to the world in 1959, and it quickly became the most popularly produced form of glass around the world due to its high quality with no additional polishing required and easy ability to shape it. You can use it in automobile glass, mirrors, windows, as I mentioned, furniture like tables, and so much more. Finally, let's talk about the ATM.
I did not know that. Yeah, I did not know that. That's where it was made and where it came from. Wow. Cars, furniture, like you said, like tables, glass tables, and then like
windows,
the windows.
Everything you can think of. That's amazing.
That is.
I tell you, these minds of people, you wonder what happened to us.
Where will we be?
Where will we be? Jeez.
Or cash point. There are actually two Scottish men that claim the credit, and this is kind of a source of dispute. The first man is named James Goodfellow. He first patented automatic cash machines that used PIN numbers in May of 1966, more than a year before the first machine was ceremonially opened. But the machine that was opened in 1966 was developed by a man named John Shepherd Barron, who was born in India to Scottish parents. Shepard's machines beat Goodfellow's machines by only 1 month, but he then became known as the man who invented the cash machine. However, they were different systems. The Shepard machine didn't use cards like we use today. It used checks. Goodfellow's machine, however, used the card and pin system that we recognize today, and he claims to be the real inventor of the cash machine, which is more widely accepted today, as his was really the forerunner for what we use now. Goodfellow unfortunately did not own the rights or get rich off of the invention, and Mr. Shepard Barron received an OBE in 2005 as the inventor of the automatic cash dispenser. But Goodfellow received an OBE in 2006 for services to banking as the patenter of the personal identification number. And to bring this back around to my experience, because somehow there is a connection here, when I was studying for my Life in the UK test, James Goodfellow came up as the man credited for inventing the ATM or cash point. So clearly we know where the UK government stands these days.
Yep.
That brings me to the end of this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Crazy.
No one's Z. So when you look at it, you have to give him credit where credit is due, because it's two. One check.
Yeah,
It's two different things.
Yeah, but now they have checks and the card.
Yeah, I know, but based on how they say, okay, he's not the inventor. But it's when they split it apart, it's two different ways.
Yeah, different.
Yeah. So, but the British government said, listen, I'm patting it, I feel it, because in the power test. And the Indian man, it's ours. Because he was the pin, because that's what we use, the pin.
I don't know where I read this or where I saw this, but I remember finding out that British, they invented the contactless card payment. Yeah, I was shocked. And the US recently, not like this was like a few years back, we recently adapted that too. And it made sense to me.
We've been so behind.
We're behind.
And the behavior.
And we're a first world country and we're so behind.
We are not. We don't operate in that. I can't. The America, no we. Let me fix that.
Yeah.
Operates like a third world country.
I was surprised. We were really behind on that.
A lot of things is like a third world country, from healthcare to work, maternity.
Third world countries have better maternity than the US.
That's what I'm saying. They operate like they are, which in third world countries operating like they're the world power. With a lot of different stuff. When you think about it, like, you know what I mean when they say we're the quote unquote.
The what?
The world's greatest country.
Oh,
quote unquote. The greatest person on earth.
The best.
Quote unquote.
And they're the stereotypes of America.
Yeah.
Gee, it's bad.
Exactly.
They think everywhere's New York. Everywhere's New York. New York.
Wow. But those are some amazing inventions. And the fact that we still use them today. So put it this way. Where would we be without all these British inventions? From the major ones to the lesser ones. And they have definitely impacted our lives. It doesn't matter where we are in the world. Pretty much. And that's my final say.
You always say it all. I can never. I'm just
why you gonna do me like that?
But you're passionate. I'm like, let her get out. Let her just pull it all out. It's all good.
Thank you, girl, Gone London, for your amazing research. I appreciate this video. I do enjoy her content. I like the way she explains stuff. Yeah, she's just laid back and down to earth. I like that. So, with that said, the link is in the description below. Come on in. Let us know what you'd like us to check out next. Let us know if you knew some of these were British made. Because as for us, something you thought it's American or Chinese made. You never noticed that? A lot of things.
Especially now.
Yeah.
I think as of now.
Yeah. So we're running out of here. Love you guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't already, share, and tell them to come check out Cynthia and Xavier. Don't know the part will be coming in at the end of the video.
Look at that part coming out slowly. She's not talking too long. That's what that means.
I have to be slowing down and trying to talk properly for you guys. Love you guys and